Hey guys, thanks for stopping back by Meghan Grace DIY. Today's tutorial, I'm focusing on making a curved face mask in the most simplest, easiest way possible. I already have another tutorial on how to make a curved face mask on my channel, but that tutorial focuses on a lot of really great fashion techniques, and this one is just simple get in and get out and get it done. The pattern for today's tutorial is located in the description box below this video. To get started on your mask, I've got my two pieces of 100% cotton, and I've got my outer mask and inner mask pattern pieces cut out. The fabric for both the inner mask and the outer mask should measure about 14 inches long by 8 inches wide. The black fabric that I have on the right is currently folded in half. I'm going to go ahead and fold my Magical Kitty fabric in half as well. Next, go ahead and pin both your pattern pieces onto the fabric. It doesn't necessarily matter where, but you should try to follow the grain line of the fabric. Once you're all pinned down, you can go ahead and cut out both your pattern pieces. Once I've got both my pattern pieces cut out, I'm going to put the inside mask on top of the outside mask. One thing you're going to notice is that the inside mask pattern piece is significantly smaller than the outside mask pattern piece. I'll make sure to point out the reasons for this difference later on in the tutorial. Next, you're going to pin together the curve of each piece of the mask, and we're going to take those over to the sewing machine to sew them closed. We're going to sew the curve at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Anytime you sew a curve in sewing, you need to take little pie slices or bites out of the seam allowance, so that way when the curve flips towards the outside, the seam allowance doesn't get bunched up inside, and the curve will lay flatter and it'll be more comfortable against your face. Now you're going to repeat all of those steps with your inside mask. Sew the curve at a 1/4 inch and then remove the pie slices. Now that you have both the outside and the inside of your mask sewn, you're going to go over to the iron and you're going to flip your masks right side out. With an iron set to a cotton setting, you're going to go ahead and press that curve towards the outside of the mask. Normally, pressing curves requires something called a tailor ham, which is a very stuffed tight pillow that most tailors use to press curves. But for this occasion, not having a tailor ham is perfectly fine. Let's take the inside of the mask and do the same thing, pressing the curve nice and smooth. Then we're going to take both edges of the mask and we're going to press it towards the inside seam by about 3/8 of an inch. Go ahead and do this to both sides. Once you're done pressing both sides, you're going to go back to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch that line down at about 3/8 of an inch. I know the black on black thread is a little bit hard to see, but hopefully you can see where I stitched here. With both pieces of the mask beautifully pressed, we can go ahead and line them up together. We're going to line up the center seams. Start by pinning the two center seams together, and then you're going to work your way outwards from the center with your pins. Right now I'm just working on pinning the top seams together. Now's where you're going to see the difference in the pattern piece size. We're going to go ahead and at the center seam, take the inside of the mask and pull it downward to line up at the bottom with the outside of the mask. The reason I made the inside pattern piece just slightly shorter than the outside pattern piece is so when we go ahead and we flip the mask right side out, the inside mask will pull the seams just very gently towards the inside, and that makes your mask look a little bit more professional. With the front and the back pinned together, you're going to go ahead and sew the top seam and the bottom seam. You're going to sew both these seams at a 1/4 inch. Just be careful and take your time around the curves. If you've got a little extra seam allowance sticking up at the center seam, you can go ahead and clip that off. I've gone ahead and flipped my mask right side out. This is what your mask should look like up to this point. See at the center front here? The seam is rolling just a little bit towards the inside. We're going to make sure we press it that way. As I go ahead and press the edges of the mask, I'm also going to press that rough seam allowance downwards about a 1/4 inch. Now one of the final steps is taking this rough edge and pressing it down at about 1/4 of an inch. And then you're going to go ahead, fold it again, and press it all the way up to the edge of the lining of the mask. We're doing this to create the casing for our elastic, so go ahead and repeat on the other side. Once that's pressed in place, you can go ahead and bring it over to the machine and stitch it down, just like I've done here. This opening that's left is where you'll insert your filter, should you choose to use one. Our last step is using elastic and inserting it into the casing. I'm using about 7-inch long elastic. Some people require less and some people may require more. I'm using a safety pin and attaching it to the end of the elastic and using that to thread it through the casing. Once you've got the elastic threaded through, you're going to meet the ends and take it over to the sewing machine and close it with a zigzag stitch. After the elastic is closed, you can go ahead and slide that closed end of the elastic inside the casing, so that way it's not bothering your ears. And once you've done both sides of your elastic, your mask is completed. A few quick points about this type of mask. I know I didn't include a foldable nose bridge. You could use a pipe cleaner or some gardening wire if you want to create a better fit around the nose area. But through making several different types of masks, I've found that the fitted shape does the job if you're not in the healthcare area. I also only made this mask with 2 layers of 100% cotton. There's lots of different filters and different ways to layer fabric when creating your mask. My other mask tutorial includes using fused interfacing on the inside of the mask. After wearing both, I have found I have much better breathability with just the 2 layers of 100% cotton. So thanks once again for stopping by Meghan Grace DIY. I hope you found this tutorial easy to follow and very informative. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button before you're on your way out. Happy sewing, everyone!